What's going on, everybody? On today's show, I am super excited to talk about this. If you've watched us or followed us for a while, you know that I love talking about education, studying, and all the things coming with AI. And that's exactly what we're going to be talking about today. But specifically, we're going to be talking about what I believe is an inflection point in learning. And I don't just mean in traditional K through 12 or college or post college. I mean for everybody, because we have tools now with AI that are really making it so that anybody with equity can figure out how to learn based on their best practices or how they learn best. So we're going to be diving into three tools really, but like sort of two, but we'll call them three. One of them is, yes, ChatGPT 5, but specifically their Study and Learn. Then we're also going to be talking about Gemini, because Gemini has rolled in their Learn LM into Gemini. And so now, almost within 3 or 4 days of when ChatGPT announced it, Google did. Now, announcement days don't matter as much because LearnLM already existed, and you could have already maybe done it with 4.0. That doesn't really matter. It's a matter of these are now a turn on, turn off switch, a light switch. And of course, we can't stop talking about one of the absolute best tools out there right now, which is Notebook LM. But it's different. Notebook LM does not do the same thing as Gemini. You would not just do one or the other. However, Gemini is rolling in more and more of those Notebook LM features. So will you always have to go to Notebook LM in the future? Probably not. That will probably be rolled into Gemini. So we have a ton to talk about today. I have some examples to show. Generally, let's just have a good conversation about and Andy and Sensei. We'll definitely be talking about Sensei today and how I think that plays a huge role in the future of education. So let's get into it. Today is August 12th, 2025. And this is the Daily AI Show. I am joined today by Andy, just talked about him, Beth, Jimmy, and I'm Brian. I think this is the crew for today. And guys, like I said, I hope you can hear the excitement. I wanted to come in strong today because I really am genuinely excited about this. I'll tell you just literally what I did yesterday. I was waiting for yesterday. Why yesterday? It was my daughter's first day of high school. And I thought, okay, it's time to go all in, right? You guys have been hearing me talk about this, and I'm like, I'm not playing around. I am going to set her up for success. Now, my daughter is very studious. She's very smart. She gets A's. She does not need me. She doesn't need her dad to do well. She studies on her own. She's not like me at all. She's like her mom. She cares about her grades, unlike maybe me at her age. She does, by the way, have to study with music on. So at least I can say she gets that from me, because her mom will study in complete silence and works in complete silence. And that would drive me batty. So my daughter's great, right? She's about to be 15 in a month or two here. Freshman year, boom, you get hit with all these syllabuses. We all know, if you guys can remember back to, well, her first day of freshman year is not like my first day of freshman year. It was still acceptable for people to chase people around and write F's with permanent marker on your face when I was a freshman. Things have changed, but she still had to go in there yesterday and have 8 different classes. Now, they put her school, her private school that she's going to this year, is splitting her up and doing 85-minute classes, so that normally they want it to be more like college prep. So she'll have some classes on Tuesdays and Thursdays, some on Mondays and Wednesdays. And then Fridays are going to be this like shotgun thing where it's like 35 minutes a class, all 8 classes. But otherwise, it'll just be 4 of them, which I think is phenomenal. So my daughter comes home with paperwork and things that will all that, right? And this is where it gets into the learning. Now, I have not been able to dive into this a whole bunch, but we got some early syllabuses. We got some early things. One of her classes, she's a little ahead in math. And so she's in Algebra II as a freshman. And so she's actually pretty excited about Algebra II because she took Algebra 1 2 years ago and had geometry in the middle. And geometry was more difficult. She did okay, but it was more difficult. Algebra 2 seems to be bringing her back into her comfort zone of like, I kind of get this, right? Now, I haven't touched algebra in several years. Funny enough, though, when you go through high school and you go, when will I ever do this? When will I ever touch this? Well, when I became a firefighter, it became really apparent to me how quickly I was going to need to know coefficients and drag and what a hose could pump out if it was going up 50 feet in an incline, and what my engine could push out for capacity. By the way, that's all algebra, right? So like quickly I was back into coefficients and drag and all the things that deal with water and what it literally takes to put water out of a fire hose 200 feet away from an engine based on what hydrants you have.
Now, I trust that you didn't have to do those calculations on site. You were doing those in the testing process, right?
Listen, you do, but okay, so I won't bother you with the firefighter story, but Andy, when you know, it's funny how those things stick with you. I haven't been a firefighter for 15 years or something like that, since 2008, whatever it's been. But in my brain, I immediately want to go 210, 266, 3218, 502, 5918, 813, and 1062. Those are the coefficients for the smoothbore nozzles that go on the end of the nozzles that you would do up in the bucket to push down on a fire to make entry or through a thing, right? They stick with you because I had to know those coefficients in order to quickly do the math. Now, firefighting is every firefighter proof, so everything is color coded on the side of the engine, and so you're gating back on this guy, and you're pushing forward on this guy, and this guy's color coded yellow. They always call that fireman proof because yellow goes with the yellow hose, right? You know. So here's my daughter, and this is the setup for what I want to show you guys and get into the conversation with you. And before I share the screen, I want to hear your guys' thoughts on this too. But I started to build some basic build out for what an Algebra II or any class could potentially look like for her in college and for high school for this entire year. And to tell you that I'm more excited than ever about the potential here. And what I really want to convey and share today on the show is this is possible by anybody. Literally, everybody has the ability to do this. Yes, there might be some costs involved, some different tools and things like that. That's fine. But this is buildable by anybody. If you can build a simple GPT, I will show you today how you can build this and do it for any class and break it down. And what are we going to do to build that? We're going to use ChatGPT's coding language. We're going to use their prompting. And then we're going to make it better. And then we're going to put it in the GPT. And I'll show you how we do that here in a second. Before I get into all that, I keep rambling because as you guys can tell, I'm excited. I'm curious what your guys' initial thoughts are. Have you played yet with the Study and Learn or Gemini's? And I apologize because I should know what Gemini's is called.
Guided learning.
Guided learning. Thank you. So guided learning is the Gemini. Study and Learn is the ChatGPT. They're both based on the same principles of Socratic questioning and teaching. Both are intended, yes, for students, but for anybody to not simply just give answers, to not just parrot back out whatever they think the quiz is going to say, but to actually help people learn, comprehend, have retention, and be able to teach back ultimately at the end of that. And that is different. That is all in the prompting on the back end. But thoughts on this, Andy? Let me start with you because you built Sensei. You've talked about it on the show. You've made it, the alpha version of that live within the community. By the way, if you want to go use what Andy has built, and Andy, you could talk more about this, you can join our free community. Go to the dailyishowcommunity.com. It's up on the screen right now if you need to see it again. And that's a free Slack community. And one of the channels in there is about Sensei. So Andy, maybe talk a little bit too about the idea of a taxonomy and how that plays into using some of these tools, because it absolutely is a building block for some of what you can do here.
Yeah. So by the way, I know you're going to show an example, but I also took, I started with a collection of information around self-learning LLMs that I built in Notebook LM. And I gave a study guide that was extracted from that to both ChatGPT 5 in study mode and to Gemini in guided learning mode. And I'll show you what the differences are between those two later in the show. But yeah, so I've been working for more than a couple of years now on the concept of a general guided learning process in an application. And it starts with the idea that in order to have the full syllabus of a course, you need to develop a hierarchical taxonomy of all the subjects and topics and subtopics in that. And LLMs are brilliant at that. They can really hoover up everything around that subject in their latent space and then organize it in a beautiful hierarchical presentation. And then the question is, how do you break that into the atomic course lessons and present them in sequence and present them in a digestible way so that a person can walk through this entire subject domain. So that's what Sensei is designed to do, and to use AI to generate courses on the fly, basically, much as guided learning and study mode do for a single text or subject that you give it. But this would be Sensei would allow you to have multiple courses in a library of courses for an organization or elsewhere. So I think about these things all the time. And so I'm eager, after you do your demo, I'll show you, what my differentiation was
Yeah.
between guided learning and study mode, because they are distinctly different.
They are. Yeah, I'm glad you pointed that out. I'm Beth or Jimmy. Did you guys see that, or did you have time to play with it before today's show? Because I agree, Andy, but we'll get to that. I'll be curious if we're on the same page with that, Andy, about what was distinctly different. Obviously, I have not had a chance to do all use cases, so I think there's probably pros and cons to both, depending on the use case. But there's one that kind of stood out over the other, so we'll definitely get to that. But Beth or Jimmy, have you played with either or of them, or sort of look to see what they could potentially do?
So one of the things that that I am loving about the fact that you're going to go into the custom GPT version of this is that on last week's episode of Paul Reitzer's artificial intelligence show, he talked about being able to do what you're doing, right? So I think his kids started school around this, maybe last week and not this week, but going in and creating a custom GPT. No, actually, it wasn't about that. It was about his daughter wants to write creative fiction, and that's not what he does. So he is trying to learn a bunch of stuff about it and then give a tutor to his kid. And so he went in and he built the custom GPT, and at the moment you can't set it so that the study parameter is always on, but you can turn it on every time you're in the custom GPT, right?
Oh, I can't. So that's good to know. Because I cannot turn on study and learn if I'm in a GPT.
Oh, interesting. Okay,
yeah, it's not an option.
That's what he was saying. So we'll see. All right.
Yeah. I'll show you how I got around it. I
Cool.
mean, it's pretty straightforward how I got around it, but yeah.
Let me point out that one of the things you said at the top, Brian, was that you could do this with 4.0 previously.
Yeah.
If you prompted 4.0 to do this study mode method, and almost immediately after the release of study mode as a clickable option in the tool set, somebody published the system card basically for study mode, and it's a very short prompt. You could just add this as a custom instruction to your own thing, and then it would always be operating in the background. Or in a custom GPT, you just add it to the prompt instructions, and then you have an always on study mode.
Exactly right. I created a GPT that's always on study mode. Exactly right. But I took one extra step in there before I get to that, and I get deep into sharing screens. Jimmy, or I'm sorry, Beth, are you done?
I just want to clarify, because we've said it a couple times. This actually was available in 4.0. So if you have used it in 4.0, same thing. It was just rolling out slowly. So maybe not everybody had it in 4.0, but
I mean, open models, study and learn, and 5 were within probably 10 days of each other.
Yep.
So if that sounds like, wait, was it the chicken or the egg? It was all of them. I mean, it's like we just had a really busy last 2 weeks. And Gemini I want to say was after, but again, who's winning awards here? Because Learn LM was a thing prior to, and they rolled it into Gemini. So who's first? It doesn't matter to me. To me, it's all about like, what tools do we have to help everybody learn more efficiently? And I just want to, before Jimmy, I get your thoughts on this and I share my screen. I do want to share this. I'd like point this out really quick. This is just my opinion. I know some people are going to listen to this and be like, Brian is trying to help his daughter cheat. They're just going to default to that. Let me clarify what I mean. I think that studying, as it's traditionally done, has been woefully inefficient. Your kids come home with books or homework, and maybe it's that homework is just going to nail it for your child on the thing that they got stuck on. But I will tell you my experience is having a child that's done all right in school. She gets it, right? She has ultimately said to me, like, school is a big waste of time. And why does she say that? Why does she tell me that? Because she ultimately feels like she has to sit through repetitive questions on things that she grasped within the first 10 seconds of the class. Now, I'm not saying she's a genius. I'm not here being like my daughter or whatever. She has her things. Some things I watched her struggle and work through it with her teacher and me and her mom with geometry. It was tough. So she has her moments like anybody else. My point is this: our current system is like, find the median, find the mean of what you think kids historically are going to have problems with, create, hopefully, homework that's going to reinforce the learning on that and push that to everybody. That's fine unless you have dyslexia. That's great unless you have an issue with a particular topic. That's fine unless you came from a school that didn't cover that topic. And now you're over here in this new school. And by the way, they had it 2 years ago. And now what are you supposed to do? Different states do different things. And what I believe is AI gives us a unique ability today to adjust that comprehension and tweak it and turn it so it's to the person trying to learn. So that it no longer has to be about my daughter or any child getting the median average. It's about what she needs. And that means we have increased efficiency. And if we have increased efficiency, that means that my daughter should be able to comprehend, constructively break down, and critically teach back to any of us on this panel today, the concepts that she understood and learned. That to me says that she is ready to now take a quiz, a test, do a teach back in front of a class with confidence. That's not cheating to me. I can't put AI in her hand to take a test. They now have cell phone cubbies in her school, and when you walk in the room, you literally put it in this like sleeve cubby on the wall, and that's where that cell phone stays until you walk out of classroom or whatever. You can't check it in the hallways. You can't check it. They've really locked that down, like a lot of states have, because they realize this is not the way we want to do things.
Yeah, and in addition, both in high school and beyond, in college, they're shifting now to doing written exams in blue books, just blank blue books. There's nothing else. You don't have a phone, you don't have a calculator. You just have to write in the blue book and expose what your thinking is and what your logic is.
100%.
Before you go on to the next thing, I just want to show this quickly. This is the full text of the study mode system prompt. Okay, so when you click study mode in ChatGPT, this is what's being added as instruction to the chat interface. And it's not complex. And it ends by saying, do not give answers or do homework for the user, right? That's the main distinction here. The vision you're painting, Brian, is a really much more advanced capability of AI in order to present and do this in a customized way to individuals, but also achieving a standard curriculum in effect for a large body of students across various different school systems. That I hope is going to come to pass, even in the absence of an education department.
Yeah.
But the thing that we're playing with right now is basically just a short set of instructions to the model to stop giving all the answers and doing the work for the student.
Yeah. And look, my daughter's smart enough to turn that off. She is. She can get around it. She knows how to use ChatGPT. This is, I'm not, I mean, look, she's a high schooler, right? She's intelligent enough. She's probably got me beat on some AI stuff here or there that I haven't caught up on. I mean, that's part of being a kid and having parents, right? Is like, can your parents keep up with the things that, the apps and things like that? Okay. Before we do that, Jimmy, I apologize because I've been rambling. I've been talking a lot, but I do really want to hear your initial thoughts on this before we get to sharing a screen. So how are you seeing this? How are you seeing this right now in terms of these sort of new-ish tools that we've had?
I think it's a great progress towards what people want to see and get out of their experience with these foundational AI models. I am a big proponent of education as well. So seeing how we can see what the good is coming in from AI, this is one of those opportunities where we have the ability to rewrite our way of doing things. right? We have this huge resource that we can use to help improve our entire educational system, our individual paths, take advantage of those personalized needs or personalized education, like you were pointing out, Brian. Now, I did get a little experience with the Study and Learn on the OpenAI side. And yeah, it's pretty clear cut. You turn on that mode when you want to go through that analysis sort of education. Now, for me personally, I'm outside of the schooling years, but one thing we've definitely learned about AI and in tech in general is you have to be constantly learning. There is no, oh, I learned all the things, I'm done. Now I can just go do the thing. No, it's every single day you need to learn something new. So I think it's a great feature for doing that. Now, me personally, I like to use the relation or examples kind of thing. So I have custom instructions that give me definitions, examples, and the 5 W's and how on whenever I'm researching something or investigating a particular path. And that's how I enhance my day-to-day learning while I'm trying to, be productive in some form. So I think having these tools available for people, no matter what model that you have or a combination of them, and I'm really excited to see what you have, what you've put together, because I've worked in the ed tech space for a while now, and so I've had discussions with educators, I've had discussions with administrators, and and at various levels, and the kinds of things that they're looking for are ways to just overall recognize which camp that they're in, right? It's like, well, are we looking at this as, oh, this is a change to how we're doing things and I don't like change, or hey, is this a way can I use this tool? Can I use this group of tools to enhance what I'm trying to teach in class, or what I'm teaching in class can be enhanced, outside or inside? And I think that's with all of the stuff that educators have to deal with, right, in terms of budget and in terms of resources or lack of resources and how much time and effort they have to put in. I always looked at it as AI is a great way for them to enhance that and lower their own personal lift.
Sure.
So this is the kind of things that I'm hoping from it. And from my experience so far with Study and Learn, I think that's going to be a great add-on. Now, I am really excited to see what these other elements contribute, and I definitely want to see your demo.
Yeah. Okay. Well, listen, let me share my screen, because first things first, let's talk about that prompting. I got to show that first. So you just give me a second. Okay. So let me tell you what I did for the basic prompting. But Jimmy, you really teed me up here perfectly, because what I'm going to show you is how to get the basic prompting. But what Jimmy just said is critical, which is don't stop there. Start tailoring it to you, if it's you or your child or whoever you're building this for's needs. So if you need the 5 W's, if you need things broken down, I say 1,000 times on the show, I learn through analogies and storytelling. Guess how I also teach? Analogies and storytelling. Why do I tell firefighter stories? It's how my brain works. It's how it connects things. So it's going to be best for me to have analogies and storytelling for me to comprehend, because I have a much better chance of remembering the story than maybe all the different words. And so if Beth says, Brian, can you explain that concept on algebra, as I'll show here in a second? And I go, well, I can't remember all the verbs here, but here's the thing. It's like a roller coaster. And when we're talking about absolute versus relative minimum and maximum, we're really talking about the hills and the valleys on a roller coaster. And so the absolute is going to be the highest hill, but a relative maximum may be a second highest hill in there. Or I'm going through driver's ed right now, blah, 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 right? That's how my brain works. So if that's how you work, you have the ability now to do this. Now, a couple of things that OpenAI has given you to make this even better. Andy has already talked about somebody reverse engineered and put out the prompt on GitHub. We shared that in the comments. So there's a starter prompt. I'll show you that in a second. But when GPT-5 came out last week, they also put out this prompting guide. I highly recommend you go in to check this out. There is a lot of good stuff in there. I just put it in the comments. What I would say on this is, as you read through this, it's going to feel like it's talking about, oh, maybe this is just for API. Don't get hung up on that. Anything you see here can be applied to direct prompting. In fact, I would point you to this optimizing intelligence and instruction following, because in here, you're going to learn that the, if we go up a little bit, verbosity. You may not know that word verbosity. You might have heard of verbose. So somebody's being very verbose. Okay, but what's verbosity? And why does it matter to GPT-5? Guess what? It tells you. It tells you GPT-5 actually kind of likes it. And there's a way to do this the right way to get GPT-5. What am I currently doing with all of my GPT prompting that I won't say broke from 4.0 to 5, but in some cases, I feel like I'm getting less quality returns. I'm going directly to the source. I'm going directly to what OpenAI put out and said, this is how 5 works best. And now how am I doing that even easier? I'm using their own prompt builder. Just like Claude put out their prompt builder, OpenAI put out their GPT-5 prompt builder. So guess what? I took the one that Andy was just talking about from GitHub and I plopped it in there and I hit optimize. And this is what comes back. You have two different views. I can either look at it this way, and just like in a Google Sheet or Google Doc, I can look over to the side and see what this optimizer changed from that GitHub prompting. This is for the study and learn to make it even better for 5. And it gives you some options. Or you can go down here and say review changes. It'll turn it to blue and it'll actually give you notes telling you what the reasoning was. And this comes up on every single one that I've optimized. And that's begin with a concise checklist of 3 to 7 bullets of what you will do. Keep items conceptual, not implementation level. And then under here, it says reasoning. Added requirement to begin responses with a concise conceptual checklist, 3 to 7 bullets per GPT-5 best practices. This creates a visible roadmap for multi-step educational tasks, reducing missteps and supporting user orientation. But guys, that 3 to 5 bullets, that has been added to every single prompt I put in here. Is it important for GPT-5? You bet your ass it is. It's telling you every single time you should do this. This is important. This is going to make the model work better. So now I took this improved GPT-5 model, and now this is what I used on the back end. So let me stop sharing this screen. Nope, that was the wrong button. Hide that. Stop sharing. You guys don't need the play-by-play. I'll just tell you all the things I'm doing. 1 second. This one? Oh, well, we're just going to do the whole window. That way I can just swipe through.
The resource to optimize your prompt was really great. I was not aware of that resource. So
heck yeah,
like awesome. Jam-packed. This episode is jam-packed with resources, everybody.
Listen, if you don't walk away from this episode, if you don't walk away from this episode and be like, I'm going to go do this immediately for myself or my kid, I don't know what else I can say. I don't know what else I can say. Oh. So now what we have here is we have the Algebra II. I built this in like 10 minutes last night, guys, 10 minutes. Okay. And what did I do? Well, I didn't even have the whole syllabus for my daughter. So I went online and lo and behold, for Algebra II, the Florida version, I'm not kidding about that. It's called the Florida version, which makes me very nervous as to why Algebra II needs a Florida version. But this is the state I live in, guys. Somebody had created an entire YouTube series teaching every lesson. I was like, well, that's awesome. So we'll get to Notebook LM here in a second on how we can use that immediately. So what did I build off the back of this? Well, let's just go look at it. Let's just look at the back of this GPT. What's in here? The improved, enhanced GPT-5 version, no different. Haven't added any spice to that. None of the stuff like Jimmy would have added. That will come later. And then one simple document. And what is that document? Well, I quickly grabbed the transcripts of 7 sessions of that YouTube. Not even the book, not even the syllabus. I literally just grabbed it off of YouTube just to have something to play around with. And that is quite literally, that's all in this GPT. When I tell you this is a basic GPT, anybody can do this. Give it some knowledge of what you want to learn about and give it the prompt. Done, right? And then you can tweak and you can always make it better and say, I want more of this or that. I turned on web, canvas, image generation, and crucially code interpreter down there because we wanted to be able to build graphs and do code-like things. So now if we go backwards here,
Backwards because you're not changing anything or
Right,
updating anything.
Yeah, and of course I thought that would just be a really quick. There we go. Okay, so I'm going to scroll to the top here just to give you some ideas. We're not going to walk through all this. And I was just like, hey, ask me what lesson we're working on, just to kick it off, right? And it's like, all right, what lesson do you want? Like literally, I made that the button at the beginning of the algebra, like, hey, so it would put it in there so that GPT-5 would say what lesson you're on, right? And so I said I'm on 1.3. That's what I'm learning in Algebra 2 right now. Got it? Extrema and end behavior. And then it's like, let's review that. I was like, oh, well, you know what? I haven't studied it yet. I'm just beginning. It immediately switches back. And it's like, all right, let's build from the ground up. Let's start with what we know so far. And then it's got some checks in here. And as like first hill, it asked me a question. It said, if a roller coaster track goes up a tall hill, dips and goes up another tall hill, which hill is relative max, which is absolute? I said first hill is relative, second hill is absolute. Exactly. First hill relative, right? We're getting that nice question and answer. It's helping me work through it. Then it's like, hey, do you want me to give you a simple sketch example showing extrema and end behavior together before we start practice? Yep, I sure do. Builds me this nice graph immediately that shows me with the 2 points of the absolute and absolute. I think of these particular, they're relatives because they're saying they're not the tallest of the hills, right? And then it gives me follow-ups of like, well, X is going to negative infinity and X is going to infinity, which came from lessons 1 and 2. By the way, guys, I haven't touched algebra in 20 years. So this is all new to me as I was learning it yesterday too, right? And I was like, okay, I haven't learned 1.3 yet. It's been a week since 1.2 and 1.1. So warm me up first and let's jump in. I learn best through stories and analogies. Boom. Immediately, it takes that and runs with it. It says, okay, warm up story. Let's go to the amusement park. Let's talk about rides. Let's talk about highs and lows. What are the park engineers doing? That has to do with linearity, intercepts, and symmetry from lesson 1.2. Here's some stuff for lesson 1.3. Do you want me to start 1.3 with another fun analogy like mountain hike? I said, yeah, let's do a drive as the analogy since I'm currently learning to drive. Help me really understand the concepts of 1-3 so I can easily explain them back to someone else. It says, all right, let's do it. I'll set it up at the end. But so by the end, you could explain it to a friend without notes. This is learning. This is what it's about. Can my daughter take the concepts? I could care less if she could tell me every single word that's in the book or whatever. Can you understand and then retrain and reteach on the concepts and make me understand it? That's virtuosity, right? That's at that next highest level. And so that's what it does. And it moves through. Right? Can you give me another graph? I'd love to see this in a graph to really understand the concepts. It's like, yeah, sure. I can do that for you. I was like, no, but can you put together maybe a series of 3 to 5 charts that take me from lesson 1.1 to 1.3 in a cohesive manner? I have a quiz this Friday. Boom. 5 charts. And it's like, here's our study plan to help you out with it. Now, had I gone through there and I had said like it knew that I had been struggling or that I was following up on it, that lesson plan more than likely, knowing what 5 can do and how good it is, probably would have taken that into account and said, for your lesson plan, you struggled. You gave more wrong answers in this area or whatever. Let's make sure we double down in that area. This is the starting point of what you can do with Study and Learn. Now, mind you, I didn't actually use Study and Learn. Good to see you, dude, by the way. It calls me dude. I don't remember saying, tell it to tell me that, but it calls me dude. And I think that's funny. I'm sure it's in the custom instructions somewhere, but it makes me laugh. If you were just going to use Study and Learn on a literal document without creating the custom GPT, I would have uploaded the document here and then all the way down here for more Study and Learn. And you would turn that on. And then you see this little blue check that says, or little icon that says study. And it gives you some examples. And this would basically tell you, now this doesn't have, this is whatever prompting is in the back. We don't truly know. I know people say they jailbroke it or whatever. I don't really know the prompting behind this, but this is the true Study and Learn. Whether it's optimized for 5 or not, I don't know. I don't know how that works behind the scenes with OpenAI, but this would effectively give you the same thing. The reason I created the GPT is because, of course, I want to focus that on just one subject. And I want to focus it on how Sophia or me or whoever learns, my daughter learns. So that's the value to me of actually creating the custom prompting. And to Jimmy's point, why we create the custom prompting on the back end. Now, really quickly, I want to switch over and show you this tab instead, because I did, in fact, run this inside of Gemini using 2.5 Pro and then using their guided learning. Same idea. It's a little book here with a little, like, I don't know, pencil or something in it. But you turn that on and now you're in their guided learning mode. And okay, I haven't learned 1 through 3 yet. It's been a week, same prompt. The only difference is I didn't create a gem for this. So I literally, and I don't know if guided learning can be turned on for a gem to be continued on that. You also can't share a gem. So it's not super helpful to build that as a gem here, but I wanted to see what Gemini can do. The first thing that comes out is Gemini is a little slower, but it could be better answers overall. So I wouldn't rate it on speed. I will just tell you that it's a little bit slower with its thinking. It also struggled, although it had really great ideas and it told me it had created a graph, it didn't. And then when I pushed back on that, it didn't have the ability to create the graph for me. And I don't honestly know why, because Gemini is multimodal and I know it can do the coding. So it seems like something that should be able to do. But in terms of like literally for math, in my use case, building graphs and things like that.
I think you'd have to turn Canvas on in order to get that.
Let's find out. Can I turn on both? Wait, is that on currently? Yes, that's checked. I can't have both on, Andy.
Can't use both. That's weird. Okay.
Yeah. So that was, and look, I'm looking forward to hearing what you have to say on this too, Andy. It's not that it's bad, right? It asked me questions. It got me follow-ups. I would even say with Gemini, I like that it didn't try to give me too much at first. I always get overwhelmed. I would imagine children would get overwhelmed if you start seeing a scroll of stuff come back at you, because that can feel overwhelming. Like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Even if it's super helpful as a summary, that might feel to somebody who's trying to learn very overwhelming. Whoa, I have to read all this now, instead of it being piecemealed out a little bit more. And I do feel like Gemini did a better job of breaking it down into smaller tasks, as opposed to sometimes with OpenAI, I felt that it wanted to give me a lot to get going. And then that caused me to have to read a lot before I could move on. It just depends on the learner on that one. Some kids, some adults are not going to find any issue with that. Others are going to feel overwhelmed almost immediately. And as always, the user experience is going to have to be paramount here, because if it doesn't work for your kid, it's kind of pointless. You know, if it doesn't meet them where they currently are, it doesn't really matter what the AI can do. And that's the problem with textbooks. They don't meet your child where they currently are. They just try to meet the average child where they currently are, and that's not your kid. So all these kids that are out there who think they have learning disabilities, some of them do, some of them don't. Your child may fall somewhere in the middle there. There's a lot of really well documented areas where kids have learning disabilities, but sometimes it just may be that the median average way of learning for all of us simply wasn't an option. And so we were left out on the edges, on the fringes. And that caused us to maybe do poorly in school, even though we had the best of intentions. And so I think this is where I really see AI having a really big impact. Now, I do have something else in Notebook LM, but I've been sharing for quite some time. So I want to stop there. What do you guys think of that so far? And then Andy, maybe you could tell us what you learned, because I mean, honestly, if I had to pick one, it would be ChatGPT over Gemini at this moment for me.
Yeah, I think highlighting the ability to personalize is going to be a key key factor or key unlock for people, because like you said, there is a lot of just whatever the median is, right? This is the lowest common denominator. This is not tailored to help studying or success, whatever the metrics are decided on for that. And even those children or studiers that do have identified issues, this is still a method in which to tailor their educational path to them. And that concept for me is one of the more important things here. And so while it may take some sort of assessment or maybe build out the first step of a custom GPT to assess what how you learn the best, because there's tons of identified different learning types and methods that exist already. There's tons of studies on this. So to be able to identify what those are and run you through an assessment, it's like, oh, I responded the best using X, Y, and Z. Well, let's try that out. And then over time, you'll be able to see the results of that. So I think that that having that tutor, having that assistant, is going to enhance the overall educational experience. I think one of the things that we've all kind of realized through our own experience going through the different levels of school, K through 12, college, universities, all that kind of stuff, is that what is really important is that that ability to recognize what is really important, right? This is what I'm actually going to learn. This is what's actually going to get me to that next phase. Now I'm in a position to where I have the skills and ability to educate myself, and then I can apply it to whatever topic that I want. And I think that's not really honed in. We've seen different models from, like, let's say the Scandinavian school systems, where they only spend 4 hours a day. They do no homework, but they also rate the highest educated. Well, there's reasons behind that, right? And so again, this goes back to my earlier statement of AI has the ability to be a great tool for people to use to take their education into their own hands and customize it, personalize it, and use it to help them succeed in whatever system that they're currently going into. We're not at a point where we can issue our own college degrees or certifications, not yet. So we do have to work within those institutions for right now. And perhaps as more people develop these systems, those institutions, we can see on an institutional level the changes that need to be made. And that's what makes me most excited is, yes, I am empowered to really learn the way I need to learn.
Yeah. I thought you were going to say by the power of Grayskull. I don't know why.
That's
what
the
went in my head. I thought you were going to go straight He-Man. Be awesome. Andy, do you want to share your screen and talk maybe just a little bit about
Sure.
your experience with Gemini versus Study and Learn?
So here is so I started a collection around self-improving language models in Notebook LM. This is Notebook LM. And so I had just 2 sources in there, some really interesting research papers on, this sort of cutting edge of self-improvement in large language models. So I then generated what's called a study guide over here. And then what I did is I said, let's put that over to ChatGPT. And so I gave it the study guide. It's up here. And I asked it to teach me about this. And it says, okay, got it. This is a dense mix of theory and practical examples. Let's break it into bite-sized learning steps. Here's what's going to happen. And it gave me basically a long reading thing, but each one of them is short. But it gave me, something a little too long for what I wanted. I was hoping to get immediately into the Socratic dialogue with it. So then it ended that up by saying, okay, let's do a round of quiz questions where I don't just check facts, but ask you to apply them, for example. And I said, yes, here's the extent of my interaction with ChatGPT 5 at this point. Okay, one question at a time. You're designing a customer service chatbot for a large retail brand. After a week of deployment, you notice it gives slightly different answers to the same shipping policy. Without retraining the model's weights, how would you implement inference time self-improvement to make its answers consistent? So I said, okay, implement a scratchpad to record the various answers to the policy question, prompt the model to consult the history, and then rank the quality of the answers and use the top end answers as the basis for a new response. Nice. Your plan's very inference time, no weight updates, uses memory and selection, blah, blah, blah. And it gives me like a pretty a complex and technical way to approach making generation more deterministic. And I thought that was really good. I mean, it's reflecting to a large degree just how technical the study guide was. Now let's look at what the sequence of experience was with Gemini. So it says, okay, nice conversational. It looks like you've got a comprehensive study guide on how LLMs can improve themselves. Fascinating topic. And so here, let's start to tackle it. We're going to go section by section. And now I want to start with the most fundamental distinction. Based on the text, how would you describe what's happening during inference time? So it made me jump immediately into commenting on what I already knew about this. And this I thought was a lot more interactive than what ChatGPT provided to me. And I personally prefer this kind of exchange, especially at an advanced level where you're talking about complex subjects. I think it's important to kind of immediately expose where the flat sides of your understanding are. And so on this first question, I nailed it without actually having studied the study guide. And I haven't even read those things. So I was very, very pleased with myself. But then, what? So then it asked me about this self-adapting LLMs framework from MIT. And I said, I'm sorry, I haven't read the answer key and glossary yet. Can you give me a multimodal lesson on the topic of self-surgery? And so it said, of course. And this was not multimodal at all. And this again highlights what you discovered, is that in Gemini 2.5 Pro, there doesn't seem to be an obvious way to create, as ChatGPT does natively, the graphic infographics and graphics that will help you understand it. But it did give me a little lesson. And then with that in mind, what do you see as the main advantage? And then I ran out of limit on 2.5 Pro because I actually don't have a subscription to that. I use a 2.5 Pro all the time, as you know, but I do that in AI Studio, and basically it's free and unlimited in there, but it doesn't have some of the niceties of the regular Pro version here. Yeah. All right. There'll be a quiz on that afterwards. Are there any questions?
No, I think you point out something that, like, I think you're right. Like, where is this going? We just uncovered sort of a, I don't know. I mean, it's so far ahead of where we were to say that it's a limitation. But the multimodal side of it, what I would expect in the near future is these models will be intelligent enough, as Andy, you're going through that in the background. It's already starting to use Canvas and already starting to build out visuals that are going to be valuable to you. So in my case, when I was talking about the roller coasters, I absolutely see a very near future, very 12 months for future, where it actually stops and says, would you like to play a quick interactive game of highs and lows on a roller coaster track? We know it's capable of building these very fast 250 line code type games. You could imagine once it gets to that point and it's like, all right, I'm going to put you to the test. Here's a quick game. You got to pop the balloons. You got to run the roller coaster. You got to figure out the highs and lows, or to your point, Andy, about the LLMs or whatever, and by the way, if it also knows some of my daughters or whoever the users likes are, my daughter tends to like architecture. She also likes fashion. These are two things that she would gladly talk about a lot. Hey, put them in that context for her. She's going to be much more likely to engage with it if it's a topic that she's already excited about, or a 5-year-old that's into dinosaurs or whatever, UGA, and me going, after, we're about to get to college football season. Yeah, sure. You want to make me a quick interactive college football game that helps me, cement the concepts of what I'm learning right now? I'm in. Yeah. I'm like, I'm actually excited. Yeah, cool. Build a game for it. So while we don't have that yet, Andy, I cannot imagine this is something that's a long-term problem, because these models are getting so smart that I do think in that true agentic way, it will already start to think through past conversation. What is it that this user needs and is going to need in 5 steps? And now it's playing multidimensional chess with you, right? It's thinking 5 steps ahead. What is Andy asking for right this second? But based on everything we have, if I start building this 250 lines code in the background and don't even show him, so that when we get there, I'm meeting Andy exactly what he needs at the moment, and it's already built, and I'm not even watching this happen, be built on the side, I definitely believe that's where this is going. But what I would say to all this is, everything we've shown you, don't forget, there's one extra thing your child or you are going to learn along that. And that's how to work with AI. You're not just getting the topic. You're getting the topic plus conversation plus critical thinking skills. And if you wanted to, I could bake into that prompt and say, while you're helping my daughter with Algebra 2, also suggest to her the types of prompts and quiz her on asking her to write a prompt for the next thing she needs to know. What am I doing by doing that? Well, it's about Algebra 2, but what I'm really saying is help my daughter come up with the better prompts to get what she wants out of the model. And I could absolutely bake that in across the board with every topic, including Spanish 3. I could do that and say, how would you write a basic prompt? Okay, let's try it in Spanish. How could you write any basic prompt, 10 words or less in Spanish to get me to do it? And I'll answer you in Spanish and let's see if you can do it, right? It's those little things, it's those little micro learning opportunities that are taking our children or anybody and saying, this is how you will work with AI coworkers in the future. This is how you will interact with agentic workflows in the future. Maybe not forever. Maybe it won't always need us to interact, but it's certainly in the next 3 to 5 year roadmap, if not farther. So as your child's going through school, help them with the tools that they're going to need while also helping them learn the topics and subjects so that they're getting better at their prompting, their prompt engineering, which is only going to make them even more efficient because they will ask less bad prompts, wasting more of their time, and they will get more and more efficient with the way that they ask for help and comprehension and how they get even tighter and tighter answers back. And that in itself is a huge jump in efficiency. So there's a lot here. There's a lot to do it. Now, I just want to share really quick on the Notebook LM because we talked all about school, but Andy, you brought up a business, like sort of a business use case. And I do want to just share that really quick and just remind people that with Notebook LM, you can do something a little different than you could in Gemini or ChatGPT. And Notebook LM really is more about that idea of giving it a lot of resources as if you were putting them in a literal notebook or in a Trapper Keeper or in a filing cabinet or on a hard drive that has that access and then asking questions back against that content. But what's great about Notebook LM is that you can give it disparate types of data. So in this particular case, here's what happened here. This is a today use case for me. I'm talking to my boss, Jake. We're talking about AI and how I need to get stuff out of my brain. I'm a blocker right now for the growth of AI with scaled. It happens, right? So I need to get that out of my brain so that I can help other people. Specifically, I need to be able to help our consultants who are either 1099 or full-time put together SOWs for AI workflows without them explicitly having knowledge about all the AI stuff. They're not there to do my whole job, but they need to be able to understand enough to put together a comprehensive SOW. In that conversation with Jake, my CEO, he said, have you ever read the book, The Checklist Manifesto? I think that would really help you here. Okay, well, 2 options. I can stop what I'm doing and read the book and try to get it done in the next 3 days. Or I can look up online and see what has already been created about the Checklist Manifesto, which is a popular book. And so I quickly went through and found a whole bunch of resources that I thought would be valuable. Then I put them here in a Notebook LM. Then we've seen this before, right? You can create entire video series and slides that help me understand it. Now, this isn't just talking about Checklist Manifesto. This is directly applying this to my use case, AI and SOWs. So when I'm watching this video, it's talking and it gives me this whole introduction about the B-12 bomber.
Experts out there start to get overwhelmed.
The unflyable plane. And then what it does is after it gives me that basics, then it starts to break this into,
Really is.
If I go down here a little bit
No
further
problem.
into it, it talks about whoever the it was like Pink Floyd or something with the brown M&Ms. And it gives us this really fun story about how this band had what sounded like a very diva-like thing to say no brown M&Ms. But the point to it was to ensure that the concert promoters were reading the actual contracts. And if they saw brown M&Ms, it was a clear indicator to that band that maybe all the rules had not been followed because they had a very complex show with high technical things and engineering. And so if they saw brown M&Ms, it was a way for them to understand that somebody had skimmed the contract or what needed to be in there. It's a great little story, right? It sticks out. I'll remember the brown M&M story. And then it puts at
Killing
the end
landmines
here,
early.
everything
See,
here is about AI and SOWs. So in seconds, I was able to create this nice little video overview. I have full mastering complexity. I have a study guide like you showed, Andy. I have FAQs and checklists. And then I have the entire mind map that I can work through. And anywhere in here, if I click the little arrow, it's going to break that out and to keep it short and focused. Or if I have a question here or free of clutter. And then if I click on any one of these, it's going to take me back to here where it expands immediately on the one I clicked on if I didn't click on the little arrow. And now it's going to expand on this area free of clutter. And then I can quickly ask questions against that topic. So I went into the mind map. I got my visual. I thought, oh, this is an area where I need more help. And quickly, I'm able to throw that right back into Notebook LM. And it's immediately going to start talking about the concept of free of clutter in the context of effective checklist design, referring to the visuals, so on and so forth, so on and so forth. So I just want to make sure that people realize how powerful Notebook LM. It is not the same tool as what we sort of see in Gemini. It really is about that trapper keeper, right? That old school trapper keeper. This is the stuff that matters. This is the taxonomy. This is the background information. In my daughter's case, this is the entire contents of the PDF version of the freaking book you just maybe pay $120 for. Because that's what the Spanish 3 book was for honors, was $120 for a high school class. So great. I'll take the PDF. Thank you. And I'm gonna take that PDF and I'm gonna put it into Notebook LM and I'm gonna make it the background understanding, because if I'm paying that money, I'm sure as hell gonna make sure that my daughter can ask questions against it, build videos and taxonomies in her own mind map so she can dive deeper into those concepts. So that's a lot. I know we've gone like straight up and hour talking about this, a lot of demo in this one, but I really do hope people watch this and go, oh, there's so much more I can do, either for myself personally and my professional career, or for my children, or because I want to learn a new topic, or because I want to take up sourdough baking and I don't really know where to start. This is a new efficiency, a new way to learn with AI, and it's dead easy to do. You do not have to have any prompting experience to do this. Not really. I mean, it's sort of copy and paste and go. Last thoughts, guys, before we wrap it up?
Quick last thought. If you turn on study mode before you click the custom GPT, it stays in your thing. So you may just get a double load of it if you are creating the prompt the way that Brian was showing in this, and then keep study mode on. But you're right. If you go to the custom GPT first and then try to click the plus, you can only upload files and images and that kind of stuff.
So if I go to, just to clarify, if I go to a new chat and I turn on study, and you're saying if I and call in the Algebra II GPT, I mean, it disappears for me when I do that.
So it's in the iOS app. Okay. So
just iOS. Okay.
That's weird, but okay.
Yeah, not the browser one. Okay, that's good to know. Yeah, thank you. That's good to know for anybody who answered that. It does not appear to stay once you do that. It just clicks out of it. So to me, the GPT would be the faster way to do it.
Yes.
And you can do the prompting yourself,
Absolutely. This was so amazing. I do not have children, but it was, thank you, Brian. This was like a deep dive into all things learning, and the chat has totally responded. Gareth was potentially standing on a chair saying yes at some point in the presentation.
Yeah, thanks. And if you guys want to deep dive into this more, maybe this is a good opportunity where we can, set up something in our Slack community just for our folks that are in there. If you want to learn more about this, if you want to, maybe we can do a closed training session, and I'll walk you through this a little slower, and we can all build one together. But you know what? If we do that, this is why we have a community. You have to come join the community to get that kind of access, because that's the point of it, right? Is to have people who want to dive deeper into this stuff. And that's what we have the community for. So that's the dailyiShowCommunity.com to sign up for that. Don't forget to like and subscribe. It's the first time you've ever seen us. That happens quite a bit. In fact, historically, it says our analytics say 70% of you are not currently subscribed when you view any one of our 527 episodes that we put out. So like and subscribe if you like this, because we are here 5 days a week live at 10 a.m. Eastern. We've been doing this now for just over 2 years. And so there's always a new topic. Today was education. Tomorrow it's going to be the news, on and on and on. So come back day over day. If you just want to keep up with everything going on in AI, we will do our best to keep you informed as we are becoming informed, because you're learning with us. It's not us pointing a finger and saying this is what you need to or not know. So join the journey for that. With that, and unless there's any last comments, we'll wrap it up because we're right on time. All right.
Aloha.
There it is.